Good evening. I'm Michael Jordan. Tina has the night off. Thanks for joining us. California's governor says it is the worst disaster the state has ever faced. Wildfires that are claiming hundreds of homes and costing billions of dollars. As you can see, they're staying busy. Quite a large pile of tires here, Jim. Now, I've checked with O.C. Welch Ford up in Beaufort. It seems that all of the larger Ford dealers are getting shipments of tires, and they too are able to help you with very little or no wait right now. This meadow has been burning for several hours now, and as you can see behind me, the flames are still going strong. Combination of dry grass, dry branches, it just turns into kindling. Makes this whole area into a tinderbox for flames. It seems conditions this time of year are perfect in the Lowcountry and Coastal Empire for big brush fires like this to catch and spread. And we're live now on Tybee Island. You can see a major difference in just the last couple of hours. The waves have swollen up to swells of 3 or 4 feet. Out of all the Army Apache attack choppers used in Operation Desert Storm, only one was shot down. In fact, these choppers were so effective the Iraqis referred to them as whispering death. You were dead before you even knew what hit you. The leaders of the Midtown Association say politics isn't the point. They want the members of City Council to look beyond the $50,000 and the question of whether it was properly approved and see this building for what it can be and what it can mean to this community. The majority of Guantanamo Bay's 600-plus detainees make their home here inside Camp Delta, but what appears to be one solid institution is in fact more than one camp with different levels of security inside. All around Guantanamo Bay are reminders of the Cold War tensions that existed years ago between Cuban and American forces. Here you see a row of razor wire marking the line of defense against Cuban attack. An old concrete tower was designed to explode and fall down if Cuban forces were coming down the road. And as a last-ditch measure, holes in the asphalt where explosives could blow up the roadway. I can't show you that wind at home, but I can show you what it does to the sand in my hand right now. That sand gets into everything here, and it can cause serious problems for soldiers and their equipment. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning now, and the sun has started to come up, but there's a thick coating of dust on everything. It's almost like a fog, so you can't really see anything. Since the sailors and airmen here on the Truman have to work 24 hours a day, there has to be food for them to eat whenever they're hungry. That's why at least one of the galleys aboard the ship is open 23 hours a day. There are a lot of things that are unique to Savannah about St. Patrick's Day, but the one thing that sets us apart from all the other cities in the country with their Irish celebrations is the green grits. I'm News 3's Michael Jordan, live at the 50th Annual Greek Festival downtown. We got a treat for you tonight. All this wonderful food. Can't pronounce it, but it tastes awesome. We'll tell you what you need to know before you come out. Coming up. Michael joins us now live from NBC's bureau in Kandahar. Hello, Michael. Since you've been there, you've caught up with a lot of local troops. Yeah, it's been really amazing, Tina. We knew that there were a few hundred military engineers here in Kandahar, but we did not know about many other units. We showed up here, and within just a few hours of landing on the ground, we started to meet more and more people from Savannah. And we're going to introduce you to those soldiers and tell you their stories throughout the week. But let's begin with the unit that is the backbone of our effort here in Kandahar, the 92nd Engineers from Fort Stewart. The workday begins early for the soldiers of the 92nd. The combat-heavy engineers crank their bulldozers up at the crack of dawn.
Right now, the bulldozer is building a security position. It's pushing up a berm so that they can put one of our Humvees in there.
The Fort Stewart troops also make sure a lifeline to the outside stays open. This is the biggest coalition base in southern Afghanistan, and Air Force cargo planes need to use the old 1950s airport to bring in vital weapons and supplies. But the runway is falling apart.
Now, when the asphalt surface breaks up, you can see that these large chunks really pose a serious damage to aircraft as they roll across the airfield.
One of the real challenges of repairing the runway is that it's constantly getting torn up again, and all the patches that the engineers try to make wind up breaking up into rocks that can get sucked into jet engines.
And what you see out here is where we're going to start our perimeter.
When they're not behind the controls of heavy equipment, the engineers sometimes have to man the foxholes on the outer edge of the base, just a few hundred yards from former Taliban territory. As he keeps a watchful eye on the horizon, Sergeant Lamar Henderson of Ridgeland, South Carolina, says his heart is back at home with his fiancée, Janelle McKenzie.
Got to keep her close to me. She's with me all the time. She's been there for me. She's been always supportive, and she's my best friend. Baby, I love you, I miss you, and hey, I'll be home soon, hopefully.
Now, Sergeant Henderson and his fiancée Janelle are just one example of so many families throughout the Coastal Empire who will be seeing these stories, and that's why we're so excited to have the chance to visit with the troops here in Kandahar and bring you the pictures and the stories of what they're doing here, Tina. I was with a group of soldiers in a marketplace in the Karada neighborhood, watching as a restaurant cook prepared a meal to break the daily Ramadan fast. As the sun began to set, we felt a distant rumble and heard an explosion. Soon the sky over downtown Baghdad was blotted by 3 plumes of smoke. We rushed towards the scene to assess the damage. It was already dark when we arrived at the traffic circle around Firda Square. I felt glass and other debris from the triple car bombing crunching beneath my feet. The sound of an imam calling the faithful to prayer echoed from nearby tall buildings, interrupted by the screams and wails of grieving women. We later learned that several Iraqis had been killed. It was a confusing scene. Soldiers who were there attempted to explain to their commander.
You got a cement truck trying to penetrate through the barrier right here, and we started shooting, and you had 3 VBs hit at the same time.
I got guys on the roof. I got an OP on the second. We're securing the bottom floor. We still need to do a search to see if there's any hurt civilians, anything like that.
Now, it's hard to see what's going on in this video, but still pictures illuminated by flashes paint a clearer picture. The burned-out hulk of an explosives-laden SUV. The car of an innocent passerby riddled with shrapnel. Shortly after the blast, Army investigators revealed that the quick actions of one Fort Stewart soldier, Specialist Darrell Green, saved countless lives. When the third and largest vehicle bomb rolled through the blasted opening in the concrete wall, Green fired his machine gun, preventing the driver from plowing into the Palestine Hotel, where dozens of journalists were huddled for safety. I spoke with Green and his commander the following day.
He was trying to make his way to the hotels. I hit him. I know I hit him. I stopped him.
But overall, this was a success. They didn't take down a building. They didn't hurt any U.S. soldiers. They didn't hurt any of the other people inside the compound.
It doesn't matter how many times you've seen it. The flight deck of an aircraft carrier never ceases to amaze you. Amid the noise of countless roaring jet engines, dozens of young men and women in brightly colored jerseys, helmets, and goggles seem to follow the steps of a secret but well-rehearsed dance. They wave their arms like robots, giving signals to pilots in their planes. Steam explodes from hidden places down below, and mighty warplanes thunder past just inches away. Many decks above the action, the air boss runs the show.
Stand clear of the port cap, stand clear of the foul lines, we're covering aircraft.
It's honestly, it's like ballet, and as long as everyone shows up, does what they're supposed to do, like I said, it's the most incredible show on earth.
Steam from the ship's reactors, transmitted to 4 powerful catapults, provides the push needed to fire the planes off the ship. The pilots just hang on for dear life.
It's pretty intense. It's 0 to about 160 miles an hour in under 2 seconds.
I mean, the cat shot is just insane. Think about the most tremendous roller coaster that you've ever been on. You know, just the amount of acceleration, it just throws you back in your seat, and you know, you just grunt to keep yourself there, and it's absolutely awesome.
Landing is a different matter. If the pilots do it right, a tailhook on the end of the plane snags a heavy steel arresting cable that brings the plane to a sudden stop. If not, they roar off the front of the ship and come around for another try. And that's just what it's like in the daytime. At night, the only light comes from the glowing wands in the hands of the plane crews and the flames searing out the back of the jets. All in a day and a night's work on the deck of the Big E.
The Georgia looks the very same as it did before on the outside, but inside there are some changes.
A very big change, Tina. Those changes involve what's happened in the way the sub launches missiles. The Georgia used to be an SSBN, a sub built to launch nuclear missiles at Russia. But now it's been reconfigured as an SSGN, packing dozens of conventional Tomahawk cruise missiles for the war on terror. But as I learned aboard the ship, the Georgia's officers and crew have other new missions as well. We met up with the USS Georgia several miles offshore around Cumberland Island in Kings Bay. The 560-foot-long sub cast a surprisingly sleek profile, slicing silently through the waves as dolphins jump out of the water just ahead of the ship. But this graceful warship is not in its element until the hatches are sealed and a deep dive begins.
Dive! 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 Dive!
As we held on, the Georgia's crew took the ship down below 600 feet, making it tilt more than 25 degrees from bow to stern as we dove towards the seafloor.
Stand by. 550.
It's a maneuver the crew practices regularly so they can move nimbly during combat if necessary. More than 150 officers and crew are crowded into the Georgia's tight living spaces, where they share a handful of toilets and showers and take their meals in a common room for months at a time. In these aspects, life hasn't changed much since the more than 2 decades the Georgia spent cruising the world's oceans as part of America's nuclear deterrent strategy. But now the sub's 24 intercontinental ballistic missile tubes have been altered to house up to 154 Tomahawk land attack missiles, the same missiles the U.S. military rained down on Iraq and Afghanistan. This video shows the first Tomahawk launch from the Georgia's sister ship, USS Florida, last year.
One of the USS Georgia can cover half of the cruise missile strikes we did in the entire last 2 Gulf Wars.
But equally promising, say Navy officials, is the sub's new ability to carry more than 60 Navy SEALs or other special operations forces. Using new lockout chambers and special mini-subs that can be attached to the top of the Georgia, the SEALs will be able to strike silently deep behind enemy lines.
Primary thing it gives is our ability to rapidly respond without forward presence. You know, we can, if we have an area where we want to not have an overt presence, but we still want to make have the ability to make a strike, then that's definitely a capability SSGN would bring.
Well, the Georgia is the last of 4 of the big Ohio-class subs to be converted to the new SSGN platform. Those 4 ships will be split between Guam in the Pacific and Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean as their forward operating bases, but the crews will still be home-based in Kings Bay and their sister base on the West Coast. So it's an exciting change for the Navy and one that is really coming home to our area.
Yeah, what an experience that must have been for you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I was on the Nebraska years ago before they made these transitions. To see the before and after is pretty cool.
Now, why were the subs converted?
Well, it started with the SALT treaty that we had with Russia that required us to cut back on the number of missiles, and these ships were going to be scrapped. But Jack Kingston and some boosters in Kings Bay went to President Bush when he made his first speech here at Fort Stewart back in 2000 and got these subs saved and converted to this new use.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, now check this out. This is not a shot glass. This is a styrofoam cup, and here's a normal cup. This cup used to look like this one. This is what happens when you take a styrofoam cup and leave it outside the sub at 650 feet. So that shows you the extreme pressures where all the air has been squeezed out of that these subs have to operate under. Gives you more respect for what they do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you came back all right.
Yeah, I stayed inside the sub.
Thanks for sharing, Michael.
Thanks, guys.